Oh, we're live. It's on.
Okay. So I think everything should be live there now. If I'm most smooth but no one can hear me, then, well, I'm going to hope that everyone can hear me. So, yeah, welcome to the first live stream of 2020. And I guess a good place thing to start would be Happy New Year to all Psychonauts. So, yeah, for the first time on this live stream, we're going to do it with my wife, Rachel.
Hi.
And yeah, we're going to talk about all the usual stuff. So if there's anyone got any questions about any of the things that you've seen on the channel, then by all means, just drop us a question. But wanted to talk about something fairly specific this time. But I guess before we get into that, I thought a nice way to start off this live stream was with something I came across on social media, kind of like a psychonaut's prayer for the new year. And I just thought I'd read this out to you guys because I thought it was really beautiful. So it's called "To Be a Good Human." For those of you on the spiritual path, I have a secret. When you finally sit in all the ayahuasca ceremonies, when you complete your 16th vision quest, and you've done countless rituals and fasted for 10 days, the answer is come back to earth and do the work. Right here, where you're at, and with what you have in front of you. Be a good human. Be a good friend. Serve those who have less than you. Protect the earth. Protect innocence. Start with what's innocent inside of you. Be a good human. Be kind. Be honest. Be humble. Forgive yourself. Yes, it is important to heal. Yes, it is important to gain a bigger perspective, but don't get lost in the lust of always wanting more. Don't yoke your ego to your spirituality. Every guru has his folly. Don't be so quick to give over your power when any true teacher will lead you to your own power. Any worthwhile medicine will heal you until you don't need it anymore. And don't let your path to liberation become a trap. Do the work. Be a good human. You don't have to try so hard to be perfect. Your mistakes are the greatest teacher you will ever have. Your love is the most valuable gift you will ever give. You can relax. Be a good human.
That's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And
Who's the author?
Yeah, someone called Miriam Elise, who I don't think is anyone particularly hugely famous. I'd certainly never heard of them before. Miriam, if you are hugely famous, sorry, I'm not trying to throw any shade on you. But yeah, I just came across it on social media, and it was one that one of the facilitators at one of our ceremonies had posted, and I just saw it and I thought that's just beautiful. So I thought that was a perfect way to start off this live stream and to start off the new year. So yeah, for anyone who's kind of new to live stream, who are we? Well, yeah, we're not anything particularly special ourselves. We're a married couple. My name's Rob.
Rachel.
And we've been sort of walking this medicine path now for about 5 years. And one of the reasons we're doing this particular live stream, I've done a few previously, is that everyone has their own reason for sort of like walking these medicine paths or these psychedelic paths. And Rachel's reason is fairly specific, and I thought it was something worth sharing. And you very bravely agreed to sort of to share the story. So maybe you want to sort of introduce yourself and maybe say a bit about what the reason is for your sort of medicine path.
Yeah, well, when I first took the medicine path, I didn't know why I was getting the calling. It was a strong calling, but I didn't know why it was. I kind of had some other things that I wanted to sort out. And the first time I went to an ayahuasca ceremony, I had this laundry list of stuff that I wanted to sort out. And none of it really got sorted out. My first big ceremony, my lesson was you need to love yourself. And it was a very profound ceremony in which I met Mother Ayahuasca. I saw her in her glory, and she was beautiful. And she told me that basically I was her because we are all one, we are everything. And I felt everything that she'd ever felt, the love for all the humans that had ever been. And it was very profound and powerful. And that's a lesson that I had maybe 5 or 6 years ago now. And it's still something I'm working on loving myself. So Yeah, I did some more ceremonies after that, and I did manage to check off a few boxes off my list. And so, but the big start of my story started when I went to the jungle in 2018.
Well, I think let's dial it back a bit though, because I think we might be jumping a little bit too far ahead. And again, I don't want to sort of be the one who's putting too much words into your mouth, but but basically, I think like
the background.
Yeah, the big part of your story is that you've struggled with this eating disorder since you were a teenager, basically.
Yeah, since I was 14.
And we've just as a further bit of background, we've been together almost like 20 years now.
Yeah.
So since you were like
19.
19, yeah.
I was in the middle of a relapse when we met, actually, second one.
Yeah. So this eating disorder has
you've never known me without it.
Yeah, and it's always been like a part of our sort of relationship. In fact, we've often talked about it being almost like the third person in this relationship. There's me, there's Rachel, and then there's Rachel's anorexia. I mean, which is the specific eating disorder we talked about.
The official diagnosis is anorexia nervosa restricting type. So, I don't do the purging. I just don't eat enough when I'm sick.
And I think similar to sort of myself, because the reason I got into, well, I didn't realize it at the time, but one of the reasons I found things like ayahuasca or DMT or psychedelics helpful is it was helping with my anxiety that I had at the time. And I think similarly, when you got into it, you didn't realize that this could be something that could help.
I didn't know that's what it was helping me with. I mean, I thought I was over it because I'd been physically well for a long time, for maybe 10 years or so. But I mean, one of my messages that I had was that I'd healed my body many times. I think I've had like 5 relapses over the course of the years.
Whoops, bit wobbly. Okay.
And and each time, I managed to heal my body, but it was just like papering over the cracks, really. I never really healed my soul. And that's something that's a strong message that I got from psychedelics, that I didn't heal my soul, and that until I do that, then it will just keep coming back. And it's been like 25 years now, and it just does keep coming back. So
yeah. So that's what we'll kind of like go into for the first half of this sort of stream. We'll kind of walk through that journey, like the different things that we tried. We've been on ayahuasca retreats, we've been on San Pedro retreats, we've done stuff here together in our home. So we'll sort of talk through the different sort of things that we've done, and you can sort of tell us what was effective and what wasn't effective, and why you think that was, or and where you are now, and sort of how it helped. I suppose just before we get into that, there's a couple of things I just wanted to sort of like lay out there. The first one is that I fully appreciate that this is a very serious subject, and we both do. But this is something that we've lived with for a long time. So the way we talk about it, there is a certain kind of like gallows humor that comes with these kind of eating disorders. I
have to have that. It's my coping mechanism. I mean, I talk about it in a light sort of way. It's a way of helping to cope with it, I suppose.
Yeah, and same here. And it would certainly not our intention to come across as like flippant or dismissive. But yeah. First of all,
if I'm smiling about it as I'm talking, I mean, I have a therapist, and he tells me that my smile is a mask that I wear and so forth. So,
and on top of that, we're from the north of England, so we kind of we swear very. Our profanity levels are quite high. So, yeah, it's not. So,
please don't be offended.
Yeah, I say it's just this kind of gallows humor that we have with it. The other thing I just wanted to sort of put out there is that what we're talking about here is not the eating disorder. We're not going to do, this is not a live stream all about eating disorders. What we're talking about here is Rachel's medicine path, the path to healing, which just happens to be from an eating disorder. So it could be, we could have somebody else here and it's about a different topic. It could be about myself and anxiety or whatever. So we're not going to get too deep into this. We're not doctors. We're not going to get too deep into the mechanics of eating disorders and stuff like that.
And also, I should probably say that I am not recovered. I'm recovering. There's a huge difference. I have a long way to go. You know, it was a 25-year thing that was not. I didn't start to resolve, and it's taken me 2 years and counting, and I still have a long way to go. So I'm not the oracle.
Yeah, so this is a personal story that we're sharing in the hopes that, you know, if there's other people out there who are in Rachel's situation, and, you know, maybe you feel like you're in a bit of a hopeless corner, like there's no sort of help, then yeah, hopefully then this will let you know what your options are, what some of the things that we've tried. So yeah, shall we get into it? So I guess just as another very like quick sort of prelude, just what exactly is your disorder? What you know, you talked about not purging before, but what is it that you do?
I restrict my intake of food.
So you just don't eat enough, basically.
I don't eat enough. Yeah. And it's almost like we referred to like the third person. It's like living with a passenger in my body. It's as if there's something that controls me sometimes, and sometimes I'm not even aware that one has the wheel. It can be very mindfucky at times, and it's very powerful. It's a beast. So
yeah, it really is like sometimes dealing with another person, because there's Rachel, my wife, who I love very much, but then just on certain days there's other Rachel, and you have to handle her a different way. And if you say the wrong things to her, then she gets very.
Even for me, like because of the work I've done, because of the work with the psychedelics, and now with the psychoanalyst that I'm having, I'm quite in tune with what's happening, and I can be cognitively aware of this thing taking over a little bit, but just unable to stop it sometimes. Like, you know, I have good days and bad days. But do you think
it's like an addiction in the same way? Was that, you talk about like someone who's like an alcoholic or a heroin addict, there's like almost like a loss of autonomy.
Yeah, there is an aspect of that. And there's also an aspect of like, it's an analogy would be like if, a faulty thermostat, or like on a plane, how something, guides the plane to stay up, and it's faulty. So it's constantly going down a bit, and you're having to push up to compensate for it. And it feels like that, trying to recover and trying to beat it. It's just constant 24/7 effort going into it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Right. Well, okay. Well, let's get into the sort of the beginning of the sort of what we did to try and beat this thing. So
yeah,
I suppose where's the starting point? Because we've experimented with a lot of things over the years, but what was the point where something happened where this was like the beginning of the healing?
I think it was the ayahuasca retreat in the jungle.
Okay.
But I mean, there's a sort of retrospect to that. I mean, I have never been into psychedelics for some weird reason to these things, despite a visceral fear, really. Everything, I was feeling against it, but it was almost a pull. I just had to do it, and I didn't know why until later. That didn't come till later. And now it's crystal clear why. And even when I think of how I was before, it's like, how did you not see that's what you were going for? Like,
so do you think this was like something internal in you, which there was a part of you that wanted to heal?
Yeah.
And the kind of like the, one thing that people talk about with psychedelics is that it's, I mean, I've said this many times myself, it's a very obvious perspective shift. If someone said to you like, yeah, you need to look at this problem differently and see it that way. I think that's what psychedelic can unlock. So is that how it felt like?
Definitely. I mean, it unlocked something I didn't know needed unlocking. One of the big moments, I mean, I had 3 ceremonies in the jungle. And the first one was like the big one. That was the whole, you know, shebang, the big ego death rebirth. Like, oh my God, what the hell was that? Really, really like destabilized me. And I couldn't drink the next night. It was that intense. The time after that was where I think I got the big healing. And I'd probably taken just the right amount then, and I was like completely gone. But I was conscious, like I was able to walk and stuff, just about. And I went up to the shaman for healing this time, and there was a moment where he put his hand on the top of my head, and he was blowing smoke on me, and I felt something profound. I didn't know what it was, but I felt like something has happened right now. And after that, I had my Icaro and stuff, and I went back to my place. And sometime after, I had a vision of ayahuasca visiting me, and she came to me ever so gently and sort of whispered to me, not in words, but like telepathically. She whispered, "I'm here to help you with the most important thing now, the big one, but you're not ready." And at the time, I didn't know what she meant. I didn't know what the big one was, but a part of me knew, because I just cried for like what felt like an hour. And then I had a time of, you know, just so much discomfort, like real physical discomfort. And just this feeling of a loss of like, you know, she came to help me, but I'm not ready. Why aren't I ready? Like, I really want to be ready. I was just so gutted that I wasn't ready.
Did you understand at that point why you weren't ready? What was the not ready aspect?
In retrospect, it's crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
In retrospect, I can't imagine not understanding now. Now it's like, of course, I always knew it was there and still there under the surface. And you know, that's the thing I wanted to fix. And she said, "You're not ready." And I'm like, "But I am." Like, you know, don't leave me. Like, please, like, if you can help me, you know, sort of thing. But at the time, I was just, I don't know. I didn't know. I was just crying. So
you're told that you're not ready, but you weren't given that sort of the insight into why exactly. Yeah.
No, or what it was. It was. I mean, it was almost as if she assumed that I knew, mm-hmm. which in retrospect I did know.
Or maybe you weren't ready to sort of like...
Maybe I weren't ready to admit it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that was the turning point. And then after that, the penny didn't drop for months after that.
So I think the thing that we're kind of maneuvering around here is that I think that there's a thing with a lot of sort of mental conditions, and I think a lot of this, I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, but seems like a very English way of thinking. Is there's a thing where there's just something wrong with your brain. It's like things just happen spontaneously. You spontaneously become depressed. You spontaneously get an eating disorder. Here's your antidepressants. Go and take your pills. And I think what we kind of realize through these things that we do is that there's a root cause. You don't just spontaneously get an eating disorder. You don't just spontaneously become depressed or anxious.
To fix it isn't just to look fixed. And that was a big message that I got, because, you know, I've had about 4 or 5 episodes. And in the middle, when I looked well, you know, everyone seemed like that's enough. Even I did, like that's enough, but it's not. It was still there underneath. The root cause had not been fixed. My soul had not been healed. Only the body had been healed. And that just it's not lasting. It's not sustainable. Yeah. It just comes back.
Yeah, I mean
it's like a weed. You know, if you don't kill it.
Yeah, the root just comes back stronger. But I think that what you said there about like the body was healed, but the soul wasn't. That's like a really perfect description, because if we rewind the clock, say 10 years or whatever, you had a lot more, you were a lot healthier weight, and physically, you were very sort of healthy looking. Not saying And if I'd have asked you, or even if someone had asked me and said, you know, how's Rachel doing? I would say she's fine. This is done. This is.
I would have said the same.
Yeah, but it's like you say, the root cause, the soul was still fractured.
I wasn't. In retrospect, I really wasn't. Like, you know, it was still constantly on my mind all the time. I was never happy in my healthy body. And I've said this before that, you know, I can relate to people when they say, you know, to like trans people, when they say they just don't feel like they're in the right body. When I'm in a healthy body, I just don't feel like it's right. I just don't feel right in there.
Yeah.
And that's something that is still present. And I know I have to work on that. It's difficult.
Yeah. So just coming back to these ayahuasca ceremonies, because one of the things particularly when people talk about ayahuasca, across a lot of psychedelics, but particularly with ayahuasca, there's a lot of this stuff of you drink a cup of ayahuasca and you're cured, and that's it. And I think, yeah, as much as I believe in like plant medicines, I always think that's a bit of a stretch. But I'd like to sort of give a bit of credit to that sort of viewpoint, in that I think that what you can get with ayahuasca, and I think certainly what you went through, certainly what I went through myself, is that if you go from 0 to about, like, you know, 80%, like, sort of, you know, you could call it healed or insights or whatever. And that's huge. That first leap is huge, because before that, particularly, you know, with someone like an eating disorder, they are so in denial. You know, you're like, nope, exactly. nope.
I think the psychedelics unlock a lot of honesty and insight that nothing else could have. But they've opened up the opportunity now to use other methods, like, you know, conventional therapy. I am in therapy now, and it's working really well. It's actually quite symbiotic with the plant medicine stuff, because it's interpreting visions and stuff like that. And
you just weren't open to that really before.
I wouldn't have been open to it at all.
So I think, yeah, like I say, to give the credit, like credit where it's due to the medicine, even though a lot of these things sound just super obvious, so sometimes you just can't see them. You just need that insight. You need that boost that the sort of, you know, psychedelics can give you, just to sort of open those doors and be prepared to do the next step. But I think the important thing, I think that probably both of us would stress, is that the drinking of the taking of the psychedelic is not the work. It's not the cure. It's just, and
even the experience. So the integration is really important.
Yeah. It's that's so all that sort of work comes afterwards. It's fully possible to do an ayahuasca retreat, or do a sort of mushroom retreat, or a San Pedro retreat, come away and be exactly back at square one. If you don't do this kind of, you know, the work, then you're not necessarily going to get anywhere. And that work is not necessarily a couple of weeks or a couple of days. It's, in your case, it's been years. Yeah, it's been going on for a long time. So we did the ayahuasca retreat in Peru, and this was in the Peruvian Amazon. What was it, back 2017? 2018 it was. So you got to the end of that retreat, and where were you at then? What was?
I came home a mess.
I think we both did.
I was dissociated. I was confused. I felt a little bit psychotic. You know, I was texting my Aya auntie, I call her, for advice. She gave me some wonderful advice. You know, write in your journal, and you know, keep thinking about it. Don't try to distract yourself and get too into, you know, back into your old life. But write the journal was really important. That kind of lasted maybe a week or so, and then there was the afterglow, like, oh, I feel much better now, and so on and so forth. And then the integration for me kicked in months later.
Yeah, there was a big delay, and then you seemed to really freak out.
Months later, about 6 months after I got back from the jungle, my weight just dropped. And I think I was still in denial. I actually went to the doctors for blood tests to get, like, you know, can you test my thyroid and stuff? Because I thought, I was asking everyone, and I'd convinced my passenger had convinced everyone, including myself. I asked my friends, my family, like, do you think I'm eating enough? It's not this coming back, is it? And they all reassured me, no, you look fine. And so, I was at the doctor's. Even the doctor said, I don't think it's an eating disorder. Referred me to a nutritionist. Followed the nutritionist's advice. Not much was working. Then one day there was kind of the wake-up call that I needed when one of my children caught sight of me wearing a towel and said that I looked like a horrific skeleton or something. It was like a scary anime character or something like that. And that's when it really hit in. Like, yeah, I think this is a relapse.
Yeah.
During that time, also, sorry if this is a bit like non-linear, but before that, I had done some mushroom ceremonies. And one of them had been, kind of a reminder of, you need to look after your body. I could see how I really looked, and I didn't look so good. And, I felt more like, I'm not looking well. And, maybe it was starting to sink in a little bit. And there was another one that was pointing me in the direction to what the source may be. And I found that one very disturbing, and that put me off mushrooms for a long, long time. I'm not sure if I've done them on their own since. So after the sort of the revelation, I decided, right, this is it. I believe that this is ayahuasca showing me that, you're not well. Like this is what you needed to admit that there's a problem, So
this was the thing that was referred to in the first ceremony, the you're not ready. It's because you hadn't admitted that. Because
I wasn't admitting it, yeah. And it was, so the ceremony was in like February, and this was like November so it's quite a long time, like 8 months, isn't that 11 months? So after that, I was like, okay, I'm really into this now. I'm ready to recover. And last year has been like a roller coaster for me because, I was doing everything right. I was quite gung ho for the recovery. I was actually doing really well. We had another ceremony planned in the Sacred Valley, and actually I was drawn already then to the San Pedro. For some reason I didn't know at the time. I was expecting that to be my next chapter.
So let's just fill in the sort of the details. So as I mentioned, this relapse period was happening in the kind of winter of 2018. And by this point, we'd already decided we were going to go back to Peru and do another retreat in the Sacred Valley. So the first one was the Amazon, second one was in the Sacred Valley, and that was for May this year that we went, was it? Yeah. And with the Sacred Valley retreats, as well as doing doing ayahuasca, then one of the ceremonies there was doing the San Pedro, and that for me, I was going particularly for the ayahuasca. That was the main thing I wanted to go for, and the San Pedro was almost like an add-on thing, but you were really drawn to it.
For some reason I was, and again with the retrospect, I can see now why, because that was like my second chapter in my story. But at the time, I didn't know why. I just knew that I wanted the San Pedro. So San Pedro, just
for anyone who doesn't know, San Pedro is a cactus. It's a mescaline cactus, so it's the same kind of effect as what you get from peyote, and like the sort of that Native Americans do. But yeah, so we went to the Sacred Valley and we did 3 ayahuasca ceremonies there, and then I did a 4th ayahuasca ceremony. But instead of doing that, you did the San Pedro ceremony. So how did that? What happened in the San Pedro ceremony that sort of contrasted with the ayahuasca?
Well, to talk about that, I'd have to briefly talk a little bit about the ayahuasca ceremony first. I actually had to skip the first ceremony on the Monday. For some reasons that the shaman suggested, and when I had my ceremony on the Thursday, like I said, I'd not really gone there for the ayahuasca, but while I was there, I thought I I wanted to get my faith back in it, to be honest, because I'd had a lot of doubts since, you know, since I'd taken the ayahuasca in the jungle, and then I'd, you know, felt like I was losing my mind and I'd relapsed and everything. There was a part of me that was saying, should I have drunk the ayahuasca? Like, is this triggered? You know, am I one of those candidates that is not suitable for? There's all these doubts that were going around. So, you know, I told the shaman about this time, and you know, he agreed to like tailor the dose for me, and he gave me this perfect dose, and it was nothing like the jungle. It was strong, but the main element of it was to show me how strong I am to deal with stuff, and that's really what I needed. And I say, like, the jungle work was the heavy lifting, and the Sacred Valley work with the ayahuasca was the fine tuning. And after that ceremony that I had, my last ayahuasca ceremony in the Sacred Valley, I pretty much felt like my healing journey with ayahuasca was done. Not necessarily that my journey forever with ayahuasca was done, because I was also told that, you know, something I was also enlightened to, that something I wanted to do was to help others. So if I were to drink ayahuasca again, it would be as a helper, but not to work on myself anymore, because I need to move on now with that. So I have drunk it since as a helper, you know, just a microdose, and that's gone well. But, you know, that's not something I'm counting as my healing.
So it was, so you got like quite a strong message then, that
to close the book.
Yeah, your time with ayahuasca
for now
is done, and it's not that you had some sort of horrific bad trip, and it was like,
no, it was a beautiful one actually. It was one of the best.
But it's like there's this kind of phrase that goes around, which I think really applies here, which is that, yeah, once you've got the message, then hang up the phone.
I got the message,
and I think that comes back to the reading I did at the beginning. You know, it's, I'd say that you know, any good medicine will get you to a point where you no longer need that medicine. You know, that was one of the things we picked up very early when we started working with ayahuasca. Like the point here is not like to be taking ayahuasca for the rest of your life. It's you want to get the ideal. I mean, that absolute sort of ideal is that you get yourself to a place where you don't necessarily need these things anymore. You are contenting within your sort of your mind and yourself. And also, there's no rule that, you know, it has to be ayahuasca. It doesn't have to be this. It doesn't have to be that. There's every person has got to find the medicine that works for them. And I think ayahuasca for you, like, kind of smashed those doors open. But then it wasn't then the sort of the right thing for you. You then needed something, I guess, a bit more sort of focused on joy and self-love. And I think that's where San Pedro.
That is where San Pedro came in. That was, you know, the day after the last ayahuasca ceremony, I had a San Pedro ceremony, and it was complete, like, yin and yang, but they totally went together, like, in a symbiotic type of way. It was grounding. It made me feel powerful, but not in a bad way. You know, not like in a power trip. Yeah, just, you know, not weak and capable. I'd say it made me feel capable and really connected with the earth, really connected with just life and how it is, and it really put things into perspective for me.
So, what do you think? Like, say in if we would rewind the clock back, would it have been better to do that kind of Sacred Valley retreat first, to sort of?
No.
You think that you needed that sort of that jungle?
I needed the ass
smash.
Kicking. I needed the ass kicking. It's I mean, yeah. My therapist tells me that it's a deep, deep illness, and to cut into something deep, you need a really big knife.
And I think that, going back to what you said earlier, we didn't even realize or acknowledge how deep it was at the time.
No.
And
I mean, I didn't even tell the shamans about it. I would not recommend that to anyone else. You should always be honest, total, be upfront with the shamans, full disclosure.
But you weren't even honest with yourself at that,
no,
point.
I wasn't.
So,
that's
I mean,
true.
Yeah. I think just another point I wanted to sort of like come back to there is you talk about this like this really hard integration period happening for months afterwards. And I think it's something I always try and stress to people. I spend quite a lot of time on Reddit, you know, answering sort of questions and stuff. And I think it's very hard to get across to people who are coming into ayahuasca, wanting to try it for the first time, just exactly what commitment they're making. It's not something where, like, it's notorious at ayahuasca for this night can be hell. This can be the worst night of your life. But then what then doesn't carry over in process is, yeah, it doesn't stop there. This actually can go on
years.
Yeah,
struggle.
And yeah, you can wake up like months later.
Long commitment.
Yeah, and think I am going completely nuts. And you've really got to commit yourself to that. And it's something I definitely try and stress. Just before we get into the rest, I see we've got a few questions building up. So let's just have a quick sort of timeout and see what people are asking.
Then I'll talk about my next Pedro.
Yeah, we'll get into all that. So let's have one from my old mate Minty Love, who's been here since like the beginning of the channel. My missus would like to know the percentage of males versus females expected on a retreat. On the ones that we've been, I'd say it's 50-50. Yeah, it really is.
It seems like it. Maybe slightly more males.
Yeah, it's not obvious either way.
Really good co-ed mix.
I've definitely seen some pictures from some retreats where it just seems to be more dudes. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, it's always been a good mix of genders. It's always been very sort of diverse. With there's been gay couples, there's been old people. That's but there was one guy who's just a legend who was on one of our retreats. He was in his 70s, was it?
70. Yeah. And there's been some that have been only 22 or so.
Yeah, some that were like, I think in the late teens sort of stuff. So you get sort of married people like us, you get sort of people who are traveling on their own, there's people who are in groups.
You get big businessmen, you get soldiers.
We've read it with the guys who were like we're pretty sure like millionaire type people. And then there's like people who just sort of scrape by. I've been on ones with like huge Muslim ex-Marine dudes. You get a really good diverse mix. So I think it's a good diverse community, mate. Let's have a look at it. From Eric Lieber, how often do you take sacred medicine? Do you rotate the type? Are you speaking specific to ayahuasca? How often? It's ad hoc, Eric. So it's particularly when we're doing something like retreats in Peru. So it's when we're in Peru, which we make like once a year, sort of thing. Then
sometimes we do the European ones.
Yeah, so we do as well as like a sort of a bigger sort of like 7-8 day retreat in Peru. Then we alternate between sometimes I'll go to a place in Spain and do ayahuasca. Rachel's been to a place in Italy. We'll talk about it in a minute. We're doing San Pedro. So we do like sort of weekend retreats as well. But it's ad hoc. It's not like every month that we go, or it might be there might be a number of months when we don't do anything, and then a lot happens in a short space of time. So it's ad hoc and as we need it, mate. From Claudia. Rachel, have you tried a whole plant-based diet? It's a very healing diet that floods your body with nutrients. You actually enjoy eating because you know how healing it is for the body. So you are like
close.
Well, you're vegetarian for a start, aren't you?
I'm almost vegan. I mean, I'm a vegetarian who does not like cheese, does not like eggs, does not like yogurt. I like milk and coffee. That's pretty much it. Yeah,
I think that's the only bits where you're not vegan is milk and coffee and ice cream.
I don't eat that much ice cream. Chocolate, though, yeah. So just milk, yeah. I'm close to vegan already. And I really like to eat fresh, home-cooked food. I kind of live off salad and soups and stuff and like homemade curries and things like that with lots of vegetables in. If you're talking about the dieta type thing, with the plant-based diets, no, I haven't tried that. Not sure how I feel about that because I can get a little bit obsessive with stuff like that, especially if it's rigid. And if I'm honest, part of what drew me to the ayahuasca thing was not healthy. Some of it was the eating disorder. Was like reading up on it. It was like, oh, there's this very restrictive diet that you have to do before you go. Then you have to fast on the day. Oh, I wonder what will happen if I do that. I mean, that sounds all right, you know.
I suppose there's I mean, getting back to the sort of
I've got to be careful with stuff like that. I think, you know, diets and things.
Yeah,
get a bit obsessed.
Just there's a point there that jumps to mind from the sort of the collision of eating disorders with ayahuasca. I mean, we talked at the beginning that Rachel's disorder is anorexia, so it's not that she was bulimic, where you're throwing up all the time. It's just a restriction of calorific intake. But then
that did, when I read about the purging,
so
crop up.
Ayahuasca has this is legendary for you throw up, you purge.
Yeah, and people make a big deal of the purge, and I know that I'm biased and stuff, but that doesn't sit well with me.
What the concept of purge?
The concept of the purge, and the concept that it's a good thing and it's ridding your body of bad things, because in the eating disorder community, it's very, very similar.
They see it as a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, from what I gather, they're not doing it because they enjoy throwing up or because they want to cheat. It's a psychological thing that it makes them feel, you know, like they're getting rid of bad emotions, and it's just too close for comfort for me. But I never did it. I did try it when I first got diagnosed when I was like 14. I tried it. I couldn't do it anyway, and I'm so glad that I couldn't. Never tried since. But I think that if I had been able to do it, it would have been something that would have really taken a grip on me. I've seen it take a grip on others and really ruin their lives, and it's just so devastating. And I did have reservations about this purge thing. Like, you know, what if it happens to me? And, you know, people talk about how much better they feel and about how therapeutic it is. If I experience that, am I going to get addicted and start wanting to do it at home because, you know, I'll feel more spiritual or whatever? You know, obviously that's my illness making me biased and like, but yeah, I'm still not down with the purging. And when people talk about it, like it's all about that purge, yeah, and I'm like, not for me. So how did you feel? So, I mean, you did purge in ceremony, I think. I've purged twice out of. And how did that sort of make you feel? Did you? I hated it. I did not get this thing that people talk about where you feel better afterwards and you feel like all your problems are coming out with it. I actually felt like I was being violated. I did not like it at all. It was a necessary evil. You know, I was glad once it was done, but whilst I was going through it, I didn't regard it as positive at all. But that could be my own hang up because I have an eating disorder. But yeah, I'm not comfortable with the parallels. I mean, in the eating disorder community, they call throwing up purging. They use the same word. That in enough is like it kind of triggered you. Yeah, there's just too many similarities with it. So I have a bee in my bonnet about that one. But luckily, I don't tend to purge anyway. I've done it twice out of about 12 times. And mostly I purge through tears, which I find very therapeutic and very cathartic. And I love a good cry. And wiggling about. You tend to. Yeah, I'm very physical. I writhe around a lot and I cry. Yeah, when we've been on shit as well sometimes. But luckily I don't purge, so ayahuasca's kind to me. She knows. When we're on retreats and we're doing ayahuasca, so we usually next to each other in the beds, and yeah, she's just this little flurry of like wiggling. She's always like wiggling about. Yeah, I get told off to calm down. Yeah. So let's get back to where we're at. So we're at we've done the retreat. Last year now in the Sacred Valley, which ended in the San Pedro ceremony, and you really connected with that. The San Pedro, yeah, I couldn't wait to do it again. So what was the sort of the next step then? Well, an opportunity came up that just as if like fate had planned it. One in Europe, not too far from us. I just had to get a couple of trains a few hours away. It's in Italy. It was a beautiful place. And it was just San Pedro, and it was with some very well-known San Pedro facilitator. Would you call her a shaman? Or?
A facilitator. I'm sure she won't be offended if we...
She's very, very well known in Cusco. And she was there visiting, doing San Pedro ceremony. So I wanted to go there just to do that. And due to, it being a weekend and Rob had work and the kids had school and stuff, I didn't stay for the 2 days that it was on. I just went for the first day. Sorry, I keep forgetting to look at the camera. I'm looking at myself.
You're going. That's
so vain. And yeah, this was profound. It was so profound it was quite specific about the eating disorder. I wasn't expecting it to be. And in this garden that we're in, it was beautiful. It had all sorts of interesting things to look at, like a labyrinth, like a sun gate and stuff. And there was a tarot wheel thing where you spin it and, you get your tarot reading. And I heard a couple of people playing with it. And I was just not into tarot or anything at all. But I really liked the noise that it made. It made a really nice clicking sound. And I thought, I'm going to video this to show my friends this sound. So I went to video it and I pulled it and I got my card. I didn't know what it meant, but it was like, hey ho, got the good noise. And throughout the day, I ended up doing that 3 times. And later, when I looked up the meanings of them, they were really profound to me and really spoke to me about my situation. But I'm skipping ahead a bit there. So the ceremony was, again, beautiful, really grounding, really melting into the earth, becoming at one with the earth. And there was a moment when I lay back and it was so sunny and I felt the sun beam into me and I could feel it beaming into my stomach. And it was like giving just love and health and stuff. And it was like, this is the part of me that I've neglected the most over my whole life. And it was such an inspiration to want to do that, to want to fix that and work on that. And, I was also filled with this self-love that I tend to lack usually. And yeah. So
was it just a purely sort of physical feeling, or did you get this kind of, this like the voice of the other, like what you talked about with ayahuasca? It wasn't
as anthropomorphic as ayahuasca. Like it didn't feel as much like, the grandfather or whatever. But there was something. It was like the earth. It was like the earth speaking to me, or just the universe or something. It was just more like a realization thing. And as it happens, like throughout the retreat, I ended up speaking to quite a few people about it. I mean, I hadn't intended to. I've always been very coy about this. I mean, before this live stream, the only people I'd ever opened up about this to in depth have been Rob, my best girlfriend, and my psychologist. So for some reason it's something that I've always been bitterly embarrassed about and gone to great lengths to hide, to be honest.
But I think this is part of your recovery, this honesty.
Yeah, being honest about it and not.
Yeah, because these eating disorders have a fairly legendary amount of deception and manipulation that comes with them. And so, yeah, I think this honesty that came out, even though, by your own acknowledgement, you're not fully recovered yet.
Sure.
But even that sort of that need to not pretend that it's all better, this is, first of all, it's to me, it's like very reassuring to just to have like an honest dialogue and for it not to be some sort of defensive thing. And I think it comes back to something that comes up fairly, a lot with like psychedelics. I mean, even psychedelics themselves, it's like this kind of stuff shouldn't be so taboo. It's like this idea of like mental health being this dirty thing that was secret that we sweep under the carpet. Like, if I talk about my anxiety, then I'm some kind of pussy or some kind of failure as a man. If you talk about, eating disorder, then
attention seeker.
Yeah.
That's exactly the opposite of what it actually is. I mean, like I say, I've gone to great lengths to hide it my whole life. the tension about it was not what I wanted.
Yeah, it's
and I did a good job of it. I mean, the amount of people I convinced that I was just
convinced me
one of those naturally skinny people, and like, it's just, I mean, I am quite naturally skinny, but like, you know, not like 35
too
skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, could have done a convincing job of that.
Yeah.
And now I stopped.
So the San Pedro ceremony kind of like I say, fills you with this, what you say is like a sense of self-love. They make you feel like
a sense of self-love, and also more of a sense of opening up. It did so happen that I ended up speaking to 3 people about it who were all touched by it in some way or another. The first one was a German couple, and they, you know, they were high as well, and they approached me in German and very bluntly asked me, how am I so thin? And I was a bit taken aback by that, but you know, I just decided to just say, you know, I've had anorexia, that's why. And you know, just to be so blunt and honest, it opened up a really nice, warm and caring conversation about it, you know. And you know, they told me that they had a family member who had struggled with it in the past and stuff. And so we had the conversation about that. I felt quite cathartic, just being honest instead of making up something like, oh, you know, I just one of those people, yeah, like
high metabolism.
Yeah, something like that. And then later on, someone had heard me talking in German and asked why. And I said to them that it was because I found it easier because I didn't learn German until I was 35. So when I speak it, I'd speak it without emotion. I can detach from the emotion. I don't feel the emotions with it. So it's very easy to say difficult stuff. And that it's something I only realized as I said that. And the facilitator was there listening, and she said, well, I'm going to come and ask you about how you're feeling later, and you're going to tell me in English. And she did just that. Like an hour later, she came and asked me. I told her in English, and yeah, it was a lot more difficult. It was a lot more like fidgety and shifting about and uncomfortable saying the words, you know, the A word and stuff. But it turned out that she'd actually been through the same thing as well, and you know, that's opened up a lot more of like a community. I didn't feel so alone anymore. And then I met another person who also opened up about, you know, it just felt like this was like really made for me. You know, I felt so much less alone, because there's a huge loneliness that comes with eating disorders, like especially how you, even when like I can't understand it myself sometimes, and I find that ever so frustrating. And because I can't articulate it even to myself, I can't even begin to articulate it to my husband or sometimes to my psychologist, and I'm like, I don't know, this is really frustrating, and it feels so lonely. So it was a good thing to get a connection there. And then when I got home and I read my tarot, then I got into tarot a little bit. I dipped my toe into there because it was just, you know, it was really meaningful for me. And the whole sort of general umbrella message from that ceremony was, I love myself and I deserve to keep recovering, and I'm doing well and stuff, so forth. So
what's the kind of where are we at now? What's like the path forward? So you talked about you did the phase with ayahuasca, you've done the phase with San Pedro, you've sort of alluded to it now, you doing therapy, and I think it's worth talking about that. I think we actually mentioned it earlier, that the therapy was something that just wasn't on the table a few years ago, and now you were open to that now.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I'd done therapy years ago and found it completely useless because I just wasn't in the right, you know, I was too full of defenses, too much in denial. I just, like ayahuasca said, I wasn't ready. So it was totally useless. But now I'm in the right place for it, and I'm finding it incredibly beneficial. And if, you know, anyone is thinking about what therapy you're doing, it's very similar to the medicine work. It's Jungian psychoanalysis. A lot of it involves in dream interpretation. And dreams are a lot like visions. And when you interpret them, you know, they're all about your inner psyche trying to tell you something that you've got blocked away. So there's a lot of similarities there, and I'm finding it extremely useful. But like we said, you know, one night of ayahuasca is like equivalent to 2 years of therapy. So the therapy is a lot slower paced, but in some ways that's good because it gives you more time to reflect and get used to feeling things rather than just, whoa, what was that? Okay, I don't know. Let's just carry on.
Yeah, I think the good thing that what's like what comes through with your story is this. There's a holistic approach here. It's not like it's not it's all on the ayahuasca. It's not all on the San Pedro or all on anything else. It's not all about sort of therapy. It's not about sort of, you know, antidepressants or anything like that. There's each thing has led to something else, and I think there's
I call them chapters.
Yeah.
Chapter 1 ayahuasca, chapter 2 San Pedro, chapter 3 psychoanalysis.
And there's like an honesty there that sort of lets you know when the time is to move on. I mean, you could sort of keep going back to the jungle and not have necessarily that introspection, just keep drinking ayahuasca. And I think in your case, it wouldn't actually have done any further benefit.
That's what I mean.
Although the initial benefit was huge.
Yes, that's what I mean. I wouldn't say like, oh, I'm done with it forever. If I ever go back to it, it will be more like for self-improvement, not for healing, because the healing I need to finish my healing first. But, you know, as far as the healing is concerned, ayahuasca's done her bit.
So what do you think about, say, things like DMT or LSD or something that's not like part of like the traditional medicines? Where would they factor into?
It's something that I am open to. DMT particularly, because I do find that very, you know, in comparison to LSD or mescaline, I found that a lot more potent in terms of how it changed my worldview and stuff. But it's just a bit less easy to pass what's happened, and you know, you can do it and then like it could be, well, I can't do anything with that. Something happened, but I don't know how to break that down. So I mean, it's something I would consider still.
Consider again.
But I mean, most of my DMT experiences were before ayahuasca. I think I've only had 2 since ayahuasca. DMT kind of was the gateway to ayahuasca. Like I knew there was something in that I need, you know, that can be so, like I said, it's so hard to articulate afterwards and put any sort of narrative to it, that I wanted the slowed down version. I wanted the slowed down version. It, you know, it can be a bit crazy, just as crazy, can't it? But yeah, I wanted the help with. I wanted the help with the shamans. I wanted the Icaros. I wanted the aftercare. I wanted the length of the ceremony and waves of up and downs to be able to work out what's going on. Whereas like with the DMT flash, it's a bit, you know,
it's like awesomely intense.
And you know, something changes, but you don't understand why always. So
what do you think about, say, just what you were, if you decide that you know someone who was in like a similar situation to you and you wanted to sort of to look at these, you know, plant medicines or alternative medicines or psychedelics or whatever, where do you think is this something you can just do on your own at home, or is there, like you talked about the support of the shamans, like what was the value that you?
For me, I really needed the support. I mean, maybe there's some people who can do it alone, but for me in particular, I really needed that support. I needed the support from the shaman. I needed, you know, to talk to them. The Icaros really helped me also. Now with the therapy I'm doing, you know, like I need the support. Like, you know, I'm he's on holiday at the moment for Christmas, and I'm trying to practice, you know, the sort of coping mechanisms that I've been taught and everything. And on my own, it's difficult. Like, you know, I need the guidance. I don't think I could do this on my own, but that could be just me that could be the length of, the duration that I let this thing, fester. And,
it's a bit like, I think of it as, it's like going to rehab. If you're an alcoholic or something, you go to rehab. Yeah. You can just stop drinking. I mean, of course you can
do it.
Yeah. But you go through this program for the support and for the environment and from the.
I need the support. I like the structure. That's just how it's good for me.
Yeah, it's basically 24/7 therapy which kind of culminates in these ayahuasca ceremonies. But you've always got these facilitators going on around and all these other therapeutic things going on. So
yeah, and I would probably say to someone who's considering whether or not they're wanting to do it themselves or with the structure. In my case, it's the recovery is not linear. It's very up and down. There's many times when I wanted to give up. Today was one, to be honest. Wasn't it? This morning I was saying I wanted to give up. I mean, this last year, really well with recovery. I reached my target weight just before we went to Peru. Since then, I'd lost 6 kilograms, which is quite a lot from an already low weight. Managed to gain 2 recently, which I'm trying to accept. I'm finding it difficult. Yeah, that's just it. Even doing what you're supposed to do, you find it difficult, and you want to quit, and you don't know why, and that can be difficult.
Yeah,
so,
it's just
in my experience, that's how I've found it. It's not. I expected it to be, well, as soon as you decide that you really, really want it, then you're good. But that's not been the case for me.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the reasons that I wanted us to have this conversation, to share it with the audience, is that just to sort of make this point, it's despite what you read in the papers, I don't think it's
a lot more complex.
Yeah, psychedelics are not necessarily this. You do it and you just fix. For some people, it seems that happens.
I think for some things, I mean, I've had. I've been nearly 40 years old. I've been around the block. I've had a few things.
You're not too shabby, though.
There were a few other things that I wanted ayahuasca to help me with, and it resolved them in one night.
Yeah, I definitely agree that there's some.
But
some stuff.
This is a complex old dinosaur thing that's been going on since 1994, and I left it to germinate for 25 years, and it's not going to be a quick fix.
Yeah, those roots go deep, isn't it? But yeah, no, I definitely agree that there is some things, and I think it seems to be that those things you don't necessarily even need to focus on too much. Like things where I've seen people talk about, feeling the need to drink alcohol drops off a lot, or smoking is another classic one where people talk about being able to give up smoking very easily. For me, it was being able to give up a lot of shitty food. It wasn't even an intention. It just happened. I just didn't want shitty food anymore. Whereas before I was like,
I mean, one of mine that was resolved in one night was quite a deep and heavy one, to be honest.
Which one was that?
The abortion thing. I had an abortion at one time, and I did not deal with it well. 5 years later, I was still riddled with guilt and bad feelings about it, and not in a good way. And one ayahuasca session brought me acceptance of what I did, and that I owned it. And since then, I can honestly say that it's not it's not something you get over or anything, but it's not something that hurts me anymore.
It's acceptance. I think that's acceptance, and self-forgiveness that
was resolved in one ayahuasca session, and that's a biggie. That is a real biggie. Mm-hmm. But not everything is. This anorexia thing is not a one night thing.
You can do it. You're strong. You'll beat it. So yeah, it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
But you're positive, and I'm proud of you.
Most of the time. That's one piece. I know I shouldn't be giving pieces of advice, but I think this one, I can let this one go. Just if you are trying to recover, just don't give up. There'll be so many times when you'll really feel like it's just pointless. I can't beat this, or I'm just sick of it. I'm so angry. This is annoying. This is not working. Just fuck this. It'll happen so often. That is when you need to remember how strong you are and keep going. And it can happen frequently. Just don't give up.
Sure. I think we'll just go to a couple more questions. I think there's some more stuff going. Would you recommend doing ayahuasca alone, from Eric? I mean, I think we just covered that one, but
it depends what for, and it depends who the person is.
Yeah, and I guess why as well. I've seen. I mean, I would, out of all like the psychedelics, I definitely wouldn't recommend doing ayahuasca recreationally. It's just, why would you do that to yourself? You can have so much more fun with like DMT
or even like
mushrooms.
Non-recreationally, but alone. I would not.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't take it alone.
I want the shaman.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even do it with a trip sitter. I want a shaman. I want the Icaros.
I mean, I have done it in my own home with a trip sitter. And I had some good, but personally for me, for ayahuasca, I see ayahuasca as like strict for healing. And if you're going to do that, then give yourself the best chance of healing. And I do think that comes with a shaman. And that is then going to come down to your own sort of personal preference, whether you believe in all that sort of stuff. I mean, I've experienced it. We've experienced it. It's a powerful experience.
I'd say, if you're confident that you can do it alone and that you want to, and you don't need the shaman. I would say if you are new to it though, it really is a good idea to have a trip sitter, just because someone who's never had it could not comprehend the depths it can go to potentially. And, you don't want to be discovering that for yourself on your own with no one to explain to you what the hell is happening. So for that reason, I'd at least have a trip sitter.
Yeah. I got another question that came in from Reddit, which from Mealmate Lee, who I was on a retreat with earlier this year. So he asks, is it the case that once you deal with historical issues, do the trips get easier, lighter, or is there always something new to confront? Do the trips become more immersive, in your opinion, for a given dose? I've heard that people report increased DMT sensitivity with repeated use. I wonder if this is sort of true with ayahuasca. What do you want to say to that?
I find that very true.
So that the more that you've drank ayahuasca, the easier it is.
The more sensitive I am.
So what is that? Is it that you drink less, or you drink the same amount and you just go further?
Both. I can drink the same amount and go further. I mean, the most I've ever drunk was 2 cups, and that was my second time ever. This is when I spoke about it earlier, about when I met the mother ayahuasca, and she said we're the same thing, and I felt her tears and everything. And that wasn't even the most profound experience I've had. The most profound experience I've had was a 1 cup. And then that was the one that just blasted me off through the universe. That was too much. Apparently, I couldn't stand up. Apparently, I had to go for an Icaro, and the facilitators had to carry me over back to my place. And I got about 3 Icaros. I was unconscious basically, but not inside. I was tripping balls inside, but my body was just useless. That was too much.
Just to interject, that's another reason not to do ayahuasca alone, is it can physically just shut you down.
Yeah.
And so, if you're on your own, that can get messy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The next time was half a cup, and that was very profound. And that is my dose, half a cup. I did try a quarter one time, and that was probably an underdose, and it had a very weird effect that I didn't like at all. It was more like diphenhydramine or something. It was very unpleasant. So I've stuck to half since then, and my dose, and it's very strong for me now. Half. DMT, I can take 1 puff and be gone. Mushrooms, 1.5. She's a cheap date for mushrooms. It's I'm speaking to dead relatives and stuff. And you know what? I even had an experience. The last time I met ayahuasca, I hadn't even taken any psychedelics, actually. I'd only taken MDMA. And at the end of the night, I went to bed and I closed my eyes, and some light branches and vines and snakes. I could see them coming up, and I felt ayahuasca's presence come to me and say to me regarding this eating disorder shit, like, don't give up. We started this. Just remember, don't give up. And, you know, I was feeling obviously awesome and very welcoming to that. And it's just crazy how, you know, since I've been open to these medicines, other things can trigger them, whereas they wouldn't before. You know, I've had like just smoking weed sometimes can be close. Yeah,
it can bring you back to that.
Whereas it never did before.
I mean, I'd pretty much mirror what Rachel said. I mean, I take quite a lot of ayahuasca, and I seem to have quite a tolerance to it. But certainly, when I'm on retreat, the further into it I get, then the less I need. And I've been on retreat. I've drank like 2-3 cups. My most profound experience, one that I've got on my channel called My Spiritual Experience, that was half a cup. And yeah, I was bling, like kasplonged then. So yeah, it does seem that the more you get into it, the more it tails down. Yeah. Just a quick question here from Walter Scott. How much cost involved in these Peruvian retreats? It varies, Walter. It goes from kind of whatever your budget is. The cheapest ones I've seen around about sort of like $700 for a week. And that's at a place called Dream Glade. The one that we go to is a place called Icana, which is, I think it's put its prices up now, but at the time it was like $1,400 for a week. And that's had we talked about a lot of different medicines. It wasn't just ayahuasca. There was Cambo, the frog venoms, San Pedro. There was
maybe the toad one.
Rape, yeah. So what's it called? Nunu and stuff. Cambo. Sapo, yeah. Yeah, so a lot of stuff thrown in there, but it was a bit more expensive. And then you can go right up to ones where they have swimming pools and air conditioning, where you pay like sort of, several thousand, like it's like $3,000 for a week, up to one that I'm aware of in Cuzco, where it's almost like a private ceremony. There's only, I think, like 2 people to a group, and that's like $10,000. So yeah, you can spend what you want, but
Costa Rica, some sweet
Costa Rica's like sort of more like sort of the $2,000 to $2,500 mark. What I would consider a reasonable amount is around about that $1,400 for a week. That's all your accommodation, that's your transport to and from thing, that's all your food. There's all these different sort of classes thrown in. There's like yoga, breath work. There's lots of excursions, taking you to like wildlife sanctuaries. You get a lot for your money. If you think how much would you get for like $1,400 in New York or in a city here in Europe? And then, when you compare it like that, you're getting a lot. Plus, you're getting these, you're having multiple shaman sing the fucking hearts out for like 4 hours at a time. How much would you pay to go to a live concert? Like $50, $100. Yeah, you're getting like 4 of them with like 4 hours long each time. Yeah. Plus, you're getting like this very powerful
very good
medicine.
Value for money.
Yeah. So it's, but granted, it is expensive. Okay, so I think that was all sort of questions. I don't think
Do we have more questions?
I don't think no. I think that was all of it. So yeah, should we sort of wrap it up there then? Mm-hmm. Has that been okay?
Yeah.
I think I just you've been super brave.
Thank you.
I'm sure everyone appreciates how honest you've been. I do. I think I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, to the sort of the people at home who regularly watch your channel, what do you think? Should we have her back for future live streams? I think it's been fun. It does that. So, guys, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Thanks for asking questions. If anyone's got anything else that you want to ask us, you can contact us through there's an email address link in the banner of the channel. Also, we have a subreddit where you can post us questions.
I'll join that subreddit so that I can answer any questions directed at me.
Yeah.
In case I ask them.
And at least I will definitely be back next month. We'll do another one of these next month, and maybe you'll be here too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank
Again,
you very much.
Happy New Year. Really appreciate all of you. And yeah, we'll
Have
see
a
you.
great January.
Yeah. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Did you all right?
I thought you did awesome.
I've never seen.